Thursday, January 18th, 2024. My name is Joe. Welcome back to another video. Today we have Brad from DePIN Connection. He's going to talk to us about DePIN, in particular Hivemapper, and talk about what he does with fleets, both with Hivemapper and other hosted projects. So Brad, thanks for joining us. Those of you who haven't seen his channel before, DePIN Connection, I'll leave a link in the description. Go subscribe to him. He posts a lot of good content. Thanks for joining us, Brad. Can you give us an introduction on yourself?
Thanks, Joe. No, I'm happy to be on with you. So I'm a little bit newer to, I guess, the YouTube space. I've been in crypto for a while. My last market cycle was my first full market cycle, but yeah, I've been working in the DePIN space now for quite a while. So we're in some exciting times right now, I'd say.
Yeah. So what made you decide to start a YouTube channel? That's what I always ask people who first come on the scene. Usually that's it's interesting to be in this space, to say the least, but not everyone has that. Not everyone's compelled to do so. So I'm always curious.
Yeah, for sure. Well, as I was building out my fleet with Hivemapper, and actually I was out in San Francisco meeting with Ariel, the CEO. 'Cause generally, before I build out a sizable fleet or make a sizable investment in any of these projects, I like to meet the team. And it's pretty early in the project, and we were sitting in a room, and he asked me, he's like, "So what are you doing to build out your fleet?" And I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" I just thought everyone was doing it, and so I gave him my whole breakdown of how I was recruiting Uber drivers, and how I had the success in getting my fleet built out the way that it was growing. And it was that kind of at that moment I realized maybe I am doing something a little bit different. And my normal day job, I do a lot of national trainings and presentations. So it's kind of a natural fit because I've been doing a lot more Zoom stuff ever since COVID. And I kind of had that moment where it clicked. I was like, I should start putting some content out there to help other people in the space. And I think we could use some different formats, if you will. Like I know my videos won't be for everybody, but I kind of have more of like an informational approach to things. And really my goal is I think I can help people get into this space because there's a lot of exciting stuff happening right now. There's a lot of cool opportunities, and anything I can do to shorten that learning curve for other people, I think is exciting to me. So that's ultimately why I launched the channel. And I had no idea how to do any video editing or anything. Back last May, I took some courses on Udemy, and the rest is history from there.
Yeah, well, you're doing pretty good so far, and I've heard other people speak about your channel. So definitely within the community, people are starting to know you. But definitely a big fan of the content you've been posting, and sharing that information and experience with others. So before we jump into Hivemapper, what other projects have you participated in, built out fleets for? What ones are you eyeing up right now?
Sure. I started off with helium. So that was the first project I dove into, my first business that I started actually, because during COVID, I took a blockchain course. And once I understood the technology, I was like, man, I want to see what opportunities are here. And that's when I stumbled across helium. And it started out with just, asking a couple of buddies like, hey, if I get a hotspot, if I place it with you, would you be interested in doing a reward split? And then kind of got into Discord and talking to some other members of the community, and ended up building that out to about 70 rooftop installs. So, really optimize the setups and looking at topography maps and making sure I have good altitudes and all that good stuff. And then from there, it's like, well, there's other projects that are coming up in this space, and just started doing a lot of research on DePIN in general. And Demo is another one. So I generally double down with all the people in my Hivemapper fleet with Demo as well, because, well, why not, right? If the hardest part is getting the drivers and the participants, so you might as well double down and have two streams of revenue in each one. So Demo is one that I'm very bullish on. One that I haven't deployed any units on yet, but I do, obviously not financial advice, but I do have an investment in is GeoNet. I think the geospatial data side of things I think it's going to do really well. And there's another player, Anakoy, that's coming out in that space as well that I'm really interested in. I have some Weather XM units that I've deployed. I have a few threefold units deployed, is what it is. I'm not sure exactly where that project's going to go, but I mean, I'm involved in a lot of different projects in the DePIN space. I mean, I think that there's a lot of opportunity there, but I'd say the big three are really Hivemapper, Demo, and Helium.
Yeah, so that experience with Helium wasn't bad enough to turn you off from doing another sort of hosted shared revenue type of project, huh?
I had some second thoughts. I mean, look, so I got in a little bit later, right. I guess there's about 15,000 hotspots when I came across Helium.
I wouldn't call that late by any means, but prime time.
That's when I ordered. That's okay. That's not when I got my units. But yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. That wasn't it wasn't late, but when you order from Nebra, it was late because I was one of the people that got burned by that whole thing. And yeah, I was a little disgruntled there for a minute. I was like, man, I was so excited, and I got my units like after the halving, and I ended up shifting a lot of those orders over to like SenseCaps and Bobcats, and you know what? At the end of the day, it was a great learning experience. And but to your point, yeah, I was a little frustrated there for a minute, but no, it didn't turn me away. I knew, we were in a bull market. Things get a little bit crazy in bull markets. It's been a long bear market, but one thing I learned in this last market cycle is, if you find your conviction plays and you build during the bear market and you get your, DCA into the projects you really like, I mean, that's the move, man. And I think we still have an opportunity here before we get into the full swing of the bull run to find those conviction plays. But yeah, man.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at is it's not so much the grievances against Helium that everyone has, but the amplification of having the sheer revenue hosts that you have to deal with, and how it kind of cascades from any little event. So I'm glad to hear it worked out at least well enough to not discourage you from moving from the space. But
yeah,
overall, how's your experience with Hivemapper been so far?
It's been good. I mean, look, at the very beginning, it was a little bit painful. I think you were involved really early on.
Yeah, it always is painful in the beginning. It's kind of something I expect from any crypto project, and like they like to bring in people who are understanding and are going to provide feedback and something substantial to work with. But try telling that to the general audience, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, we have to remember they're doing two of the hardest things you can do, which is they designed and manufactured their own hardware, which is very difficult in itself. That has to work with all the different operating systems across different, different, your Androids, your Apples, if you will, and build a map. So, I mean, that's a lot of difficult things combined all into one startup in the crypto space. So, yeah, man, I mean, you have to be a little bit patient. And I love that stuff. So I spent a lot of time working with the devs early on in developing the fleet management tools and all that stuff. But when you're building out a fleet, not everyone else is going to be as patient. So the painful part was like keeping drivers engaged because at the beginning you had to have the app open and connected at all times. And I have a few gray hairs from those days, but it's all been worth it in the end for sure.
But overall, what's your thoughts on how the system's evolved since then? I would assume you're pretty happy.
Absolutely. Yeah. The team has constantly pushed out updates. The process has gotten so much better. And it's not just from the contributor standpoint. I mean, from that end, though, it's gotten much easier to map, for one, because now the Dashcam can download on its own, it has memory on there. It's a lot more of a seamless process. But on the back end too, I mean, they have developers working on making that data actionable. And that's the other part of this. I think a lot of people get caught up on the contribution side and the rewards and all that, but none of that matters if the data is not valuable. And I think they're doing a really great job in going out there and getting customers that is bringing real revenue into the project, and creating APIs and different ways for companies to use that data. And you see it right with, the honeybursts are a great example of that. I mean, those are businesses really paying for those areas to be captured. And, Ariel being at the helm, he's got like 30 or 40 years of map experience. So he has a lot of inroads with some major players in the industry. So I've been super impressed with the team and how they continue to make improvements and really push this thing forward to put it on the map the way it is right now.
Yeah, I like to ask those kinds of questions because my audience gets to hear it from someone other than me. But I have mostly the same opinion. It's been tremendous up to this point, and I assume it will continue to be tremendous. But what was it that made you decide to start a fleet? Like, what made you say this is a project I'm confident enough in it to invest time, money, effort, and work with other people that I have relationships with, or form relationships through third parties? Like, what was it in those early days that made you say this is the one?
Yeah, that's a great question. Normally with these projects, I look at, I research the team, number one, to see if they're able to execute, but looking at the potential market. Okay. So in this case, mapping. And I mean, this is a huge industry. When you look at Google, for example, I mean, they have 4 million businesses a year buying this street level imagery from them. So I look at, okay, can there be real revenue associated with the project? Because in DePIN, that's what matters. That's one of the reasons I like DePIN, is because they're some of the things in crypto that are actually driving revenue. So how big is that potential revenue? And then what's the differentiator? In this case, it's that you can get fresher data. And this is something that's never existed before. And I think one of the things that's most exciting about it is that there are new revenue streams that have never existed here, because there are parts in the market that Google's never been able to attack because their imagery is outdated in many ways. So I think just seeing how big this could be and seeing that the team, I felt like they'd be able to execute on the back end. And then the next thing I look at is, how can I build out a fleet to, optimize or maximize those potential rewards? And that's what got me thinking, okay, Uber and Lyft drivers, right? Because you want, in this case, drivers that can drive differentiated routes that are on the road a lot. And I started just putting feelers out there in my Ubers and Lyfts, like, pitching the idea back in like April of 2022 when the first pre-orders opened. I think my first order, I put in like, 10 dash cams just to kind of see. I was like, yeah, I'll get them placed and see where it goes. And I started generating interest, and it kind of just went from there. But, that's kind of my thought process. Like, where's the revenue? Can the team execute? Is there a differentiator involved in the project? And then, how can I build a business around this and attract contributors that can maximize the rewards?
Now, for anyone who's looking to start a fleet in general, whether it be Hivemapper, Demo, or do some sort of hosted device for revenue splits, what would be your main advice to these people with that interest? Like, what would you tell them? These are the things to look out for. These are the steps to take that maybe you didn't, or you've learned there's a better way.
Yeah. Well, first, I keep everything legally above board. So consult an accountant and a good lawyer to get an LLC formed and all that good stuff. But look, I mean, set realistic expectations. And before making like a huge investment in something, I generally will identify a project I like. I'll put in a small order so I can get in on the front end, and then start that recruitment process a little bit just to put feelers out there and see. Definitely look at the tokenomics, okay? Because there are some projects out there that the tokenomics aren't fantastic. But I would say just before you go like full in on something, on something like this, like, do your homework and understand the project and all the ins and outs of it. And start a little bit smaller, and then you can kind of roll that into a snowball effect once you have your process down, is the advice I would give.
So you decide to start this fleet. How do you go about identifying good candidates or good partners to host the dash cams and work with you when it comes to understanding and making sure everything's up to par for their earnings? Because I've seen this before where people say, yeah, I'm starting a fleet, and they invest a bunch of money into it. And next thing you know, it's just one issue after another with their drivers that they don't understand, or they have complaints about the earnings. They don't understand the earnings. They're not
Yeah.
consistently uploading the imagery. So you get a lot of that. And I'm wondering, how do you weed out who are the maybe not so optimal ones that have the interest, and find who's serious and reliable?
Yeah. So that's a good question. It's adapted. I've refined this right over time. At the beginning, I was just like pitching every Uber driver because I didn't realize that daytime imagery is what mattered, for example. But number one, you need to understand what the ideal profile of the contributor is, so you can kind of whittle down and qualify the potential participants. And then I would say, when you're explaining it to people or pitching somebody on it, be conservative. I never guarantee any earnings or anything of that nature, right? So I'll normally give like a range. Obviously, at the beginning of this, like, we didn't know before mapping started. It was like, hey, this is what we're doing. Big picture. We're trying to go head to head of Google, create the freshest map that exists. I'm making the investment. We don't know what the rewards will look like, but look at it like getting involved in a company in the early days, and you're earning stock in that company. And if it does well, you could do really well with it. But now that we do have an idea, I would still highly recommend, number one, being really conservative. Don't promise some crazy earnings, because that's going to lead to disappointment and people becoming disenfranchised as participants. And number two, like, don't be pushy about it or sell it, hard sell people. Like, you want people that are interested, that are going to be patient with this sort of stuff. And as long as you set up proper expectations and you get people excited and they understand what they're getting into, they're going to be a lot more patient. And this was a lot harder when honey was sitting at like 1.5 cents for like all of last year. I had a couple of drivers who are like, yeah, I don't think this is worth it anymore. I'm like, well, look at the big picture here, keeping them motivated. Obviously now it's gotten a little bit easier over the last month or so,
Yeah.
but
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 with
yeah,
that, with that token price jump, yeah, it's now they're making more money. They're getting used to it. They're happy. But we
yeah,
have this space is volatile, and
yeah,
as much as we want to believe that the bull run is going to make everything shoot to the moon, and which it likely will, I'm not going to bet the farm on it, but really, after that cycle's over, now you have to explain to people, well, this is how crypto works, and
yeah.
the price of a token is not equal to how the price of a stock share is seen. So
Yeah.
how do you go about setting those expectations? And is it like, do you pay out in fiat? Do some opt for the token? What do you think is the best approach there?
Yeah, no, I learned that through helium in the last market cycle for sure. I don't do fiat. I did that with helium, and given the volatility of the market, I won't do that again. Look, here's the deal. Things in bull runs, and to your point, we hope that we see the bull run that everyone wants to see. Nothing's guaranteed, though. There's a lot of stuff going on in the macro economy right now that we don't know for sure, but a lot of things are
Completely
indicating.
agree. Sorry
Yeah,
to cut you off. I completely agree.
no, no, for sure. I'm not going to get into the weeds on that right now, but I will say, like, things get overvalued and get pumped like crazy in a bull run. Now, I'm not saying that some of these valuations aren't ever justifiable down the road, but I'd say it just comes way sooner than it should. And there are times where you should take some profits. Like, if you bought into a project and has done a 20x, you might want to take a little money off the table. And there's a lot of people out there that are going to shill and tell you, oh, you need to have diamond hands, and if you sell, you don't believe in the project. Like, that's BS. Okay. Like if someone's telling you that, they're pumping their bags rather, to use you as exit liquidity in a lot of cases. So I plan on being very transparent, and I was during helium. And if the market's peaking, I'm going to tell people like, yeah, I'm taking a little bit off the table, right? If anything, to protect yourself for taxes, because it is taxable income when you're mining crypto. But
Great
um,
point. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Because I know somebody that's happened to, a helium OG, where he was earning a lot. He had you know, a huge number of installs, and was earning at this high valuation when HNT was through the roof, and just held onto his bags. Well, he owed a pretty big tax bill, and the market crashed.
Mm.
And he would have had to have sold everything at a loss to pay that tax bill, and that's a tough spot to be in. So whether you're an individual contributor or a fleet manager building out a business with this thing, you do need to realize, like, when things get overvalued, it's okay to take a little bit off the table. It doesn't mean you don't believe in the project. Like I don't get involved in a project unless I have complete conviction about it. But let's be realistic here. I mean, when things are overvalued, sometimes they get overvalued, and it happens in a bull run. So um, as far as the downturn in the market, look, man, when the music stops, it stops hard. I learned that the hard way in the last market cycle, and it's
Yeah.
brutal. It's not like the stock market where they have, they freeze the market. It's, you see the red, and it's like through the floor. And it's the first couple of times, man, your stomach sinks. You're like, oh my goodness.
Oh yeah. And even if you make money on the project before all that happens, you're still going to have people who jump to the conclusion. People that you know personally or that were hosting for you, he invested in a scam. It was a Ponzi. It didn't work out. It's like, well, you can look at it that way, but did we really lose money on this? Did it come at any cost to you? But it's just when money is involved, a lot of the rational thinking goes out the window, especially
Mhm.
when there's events that to the regular person, it's not explainable the way it is to people who've seen crypto. And if
Yeah.
looking through crypto at a with a logical glass, mm, it's hard to take into consideration there. But go ahead, were you gonna say something?
No, I agree. I dealt with that. With helium, they're like, when the market was up, they're like, oh, he's a genius, and the market's down, they're like, oh, he was in a scam. It's like, yeah, it's and it didn't help. The media, during a bull market, it's all positive, and then if the script flipped. And look, there were some bad actors in the last bull run, no doubt about it. I'm glad we washed those people out, but like helium's a perfect example of this, right? If the token had not gotten as high as it did, no one would have cared about it, right? And in my opinion, helium was actually a success in a lot of ways, right? It showed the power of DePIN in the sense that we showed how quickly this framework can scale networks or scale participation. They went from 15,000 hotspots to nearly 1 million in the course of like 18 months.
Yeah.
I mean, that's remarkable. And was it overvalued? Yeah. I mean, you got to think about this. They went from, again, 15,000 to 1 million hotspots. Yeah, the infrastructure was there, but it takes time for you to build applications that use the network and drive revenue. And
Mhm.
IoT might have a little bit of a pricing issue where we were years ahead of where we needed to be from IoT usage to drive real
Yeah.
revenue. I think the mobile side of things, could push the envelope to where it needs to be. But regardless, I think there's a lot of successes and a lot of things that we learned from with helium as well that we're starting to see incorporated in some of these newer projects in the DePIN space. And they're addressing some of those shortcomings, I think, from helium. But overall, I do think it was a massive success, really, in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, certainly. Now, one of the things I guess I'm wondering if you're seeing the same, where there's a lot of people who were involved in that project, and that was really their first time around, and in some instances, the only one that they were involved with, but they are they have that experience in mind for setting their expectations when it comes to Hivemapper? And how likely do you think it is that it's going to play out similar or the same whatsoever in this case? Because
Hmm.
I would say I don't think it's going to play out the way Helium did, particularly. But your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. So we're starting to see some things line up though, but to your point, I don't think it's going to be exactly the same because here with Helium, they had the halving every 2 years, and I think the token distribution is part of this whole equation.
Mhm.
And people that got involved in Helium really early were making obscene amounts of money. And uh, I think a lot of people were shilling it online, and all these people that ordered these hotspots didn't do their research, right? They didn't know what they were getting into. They thought they could plug a box in and make $12,000 a week or a month or whatever it was at the peak. That's not sustainable. And they had to have
Mhm.
known as more hotspots came online, those earnings would drop and dissipate, and then the halving would be coming up. So I think it was a lot of hype. It was the midst of a bull run. You had a lot of YouTubers out there just talking about their earnings
Yeah.
and a lot of unrealistic expectations. Now, um, where I see Hivemapper going, their distribution's a little bit different, right? So it's tailored to map progress. So I think the reward distributions will be a lot more levelized over time. Now, will the rewards drop from where they are today? Likely, yes, right? Because there's a lot of incentives for mapping unmapped roads, for example. And as more roads are mapped, well, you're not going to be able to get that extra bonus. I mean, that's just one example. Will it be worthwhile to contribute? I think so. Yeah. I mean, you look at how the token distribution works, you might not be breaking even in like 1 or 2 weeks, but but that's okay. I mean, I think people in the crypto space, they expect to have like ROI and break even in like, 2-3 weeks. That's not, I mean, that's usually just not
Mhm.
reasonable. And you look at other types of investments. I mean, even if you're breaking even in a year, that's a good investment outside of the crypto space. So I think
Yeah.
as long as people have reasonable expectations, I think this project is going to make a lot of sense to contribute in for the long run, actually.
I completely agree, and I'm not going to get into the litany of reasons as to the token spike with price spike with Helium, but there were a lot of factors adding up to that price, and then people don't look at the tokenomics and compare and contrast simple concepts like supply and demand. So I've made those points in other videos, and I keep hearing these crazy, the price speculation is just out of control. Honey to $25.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's,
you know,
yeah.
um, but okay, so we'll change gears here a little bit.
Yeah.
So you've made the connections, you've talked to people you've previously had relationships with, or someone was referred to you for part of your fleet. What's the initial onboarding process look like? The first steps to that?
Yeah. So let's say I have a driver ready to go. Um, I have 1099 agreements that I send through DocuSign, first and foremost. And my terms there, I mean, it's really just, hey, I'm going to set up the equipment, specify what the token splits are, that they're going to upload imagery, that either party can terminate the relationship with like 10 days notice. But if the driver does get their own dash cam, I make them give me 30 days notice just so I can place the cam with someone else. Like I'm not locking them into like any crazy long terms or anything like that. It's just I needed to have time to set it up with a different driver. The next thing is really giving them the option like, hey, you can set up your own phantom wallet. I can set it up for you if you want, and getting that added to fleet management. Now, if I set it up for them, I'll write down their seed phrase on a piece of paper. I'll get it set up in fleet management. After that, I delete it off my devices just so they have full custody over it. And but once it's set up in fleet management, I get the token split set up. And I do add a couple of bookmarks, one to track their uploads. So you can go on the Explorer and see how many kilometers they're uploading on a day-to-day basis. Another one is I bookmark their Soul Scan page so I can see what their deposits are every Thursday. And that way I can track my referral split. So from that point, I'll meet with the driver. I use a secondary mount. I highly recommend using the mount that comes with the dash cam. Isn't fantastic, frankly, but I give them that seed phrase, or if they already have it set up, I walk them through logging into the Hivemapper app, and then get their camera placement set up, and just kind of give them the tutorial on how to download imagery, how to upload imagery, the mapping period is, daytime imagery is what matters. Kind of give them the, show them the ropes, if you will.
Yeah.
And then after that, really, it's just, tracking for the first couple of weeks on the back end, they're uploading properly, because I have people of all ages and people that are some are tech savvy, some aren't. So you can walk them through it, two or three times before they have the process down. So just making sure that they're uploading things properly, because the worst thing is if they're driving like 1,000 miles and they're like, yeah, I can't wait. And then Thursday rolls around. It's like, yeah, you didn't get anything. You didn't upload it. I mean, that's, that's happened at the very beginning. And I was like, I felt bad, and they were super frustrated. I mean, we were both frustrated, obviously, but, and then, then on Thursday, just looking at that SoulScan page, tracking their rewards, and then I can calculate my referral splits, because I don't have a 3-way split on the fleet management tool, which is a little frustrating, but I found a workaround. Go through. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Is that the name of the tool you're using, the fleet management tool, or is there a specific name for it? For those who are interested.
The fleet manager tool is just on the Hivemapper website. So you go to their website, make sure it's 2 P's, not 3 P's, Hivemapper. I don't know. That's too soon. Now there's that hack that happened with.
We've talked about it here. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a bummer, man. That's one thing about this space is there are a lot of bad actors. And when there's that much money flowing through any type of new technology, people are going to take advantage. So look, hey, never click on links and confirm stuff in your wallet. Never give out your seed phrase. Like, I cannot tell you how important this is. This happened to one of my drivers last night. He was like, hey man, my honey's gone. And I was like, did you click on a link? And he's like, yeah. I was like, oh yeah. So be really, really careful out there, y'all. And we're going into a bull run. It's about to get worse. People are going to try to bait you in Discord, and things seem legit. Just be really, really careful.
And I want to add once again, what happened with Alan, I don't fault him for. There's targeted attacks against anyone who is in any sort of position of influence. Someone's tried to hack me recently. I've seen people that have much more technical expertise than Alan, people who are developers in large projects, be hacked through Discord session hijacking. They click a link to another Discord, and they have to go through a custom captcha bot that steals that session ID and the token for it, and another airdrop, right? And SMS, two-factor authentication. They do an SMS swap is another real common one. This stuff happens all the time. It is rampant. So I really don't like the way some of the people were bashing him there. And I get it, but they don't know. They don't know better. And it could have happened to any of us. Just being honest, could have happened to me just as well. So be very careful. Like Brad said, don't give out your 12 words. Support won't ask for it. Don't give out your private key. Don't connect your wallet to fishy sites or sites like token drops. Especially if you're going to get a token drop, set up a new wallet that's not connected. I don't even use a device your wallet's connected to. Use a different device, a different wallet. Send enough Solana or whatever it is there for gas fees, and then when you get that drop, send those tokens to another wallet. Just throw that wallet away. Best advice I can give. Anyways, this is supposed to be about you. I don't want to.
No, it's important, man. Even in on OpenSea, if you're buying NFTs, set up a different wallet if you're connecting to really anything at this point. It's really important to cover that, because there's gonna be a lot of new people coming into the space in this bull run, and that's the worst, man. Is getting hacked. That sucks. So I don't think you can cover it too much. So going back to the fleet management, so you go to Hivemapper, and you'll connect. Speaking of connecting your wallet, connect your wallet to to the site, and you'll go into manage your fleet, and you'll be able to set up your fleet management tool there. And then from there, you can add fleet members. So they've actually built it out. It's pretty user friendly. So when you go to add a member, you just need to have their wallet address. It creates a link for them to scan and get added to your fleet, and then you can enable them and add their token split in there. So it's automated every Thursday, which is really nice. But again, there's only a two-way split. So I do a referral program. I think if you're going to scale a fleet, you need to have a referral program. Like 40% of the drivers in my fleet were referred. So it can be very effective, but you need to calculate that third split and manually account for that. I did a video on how I manage my fleet operationally. I go into a lot of detail on that, and even put up some documents with calculators and stuff that you can use. So definitely check that out if you're looking to manage your fleet. Yeah.
DePIN Connection on YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. So common issues when dealing with hosts, more of the interpersonal issues, or
yeah. The one I see the most is they're like, I can't get the images to upload because their wallet gets logged out of the app.
yeah.
Like just small like nuances with the app, I'd say is the biggest thing. Sometimes updates will get pushed out and there'll be like a new thing that comes up that I have to work through. But just small little things with the app are really the main questions I get. Questions around like, how do I cash out? I get those questions as well. It's become a lot easier now that Honey is on Coinbase, so you can send it directly. So that was a huge move, right? So that happened a couple of days ago.
I'm very happy about that.
For sure. So yeah, I would say that's the main question. That I get is they're just having trouble with downloading and uploading imagery. Once they have the process down, it's pretty quick, pretty straightforward. But yeah, definitely logging into the app. I would say making sure you're connected to the Dashcam Wi-Fi, camera placement. There are times where I'll have the camera like placed perfectly when I meet with them. And then I meet up with them later, set up a demo device, and the camera's like tilted like this. And I'm like, all right, come on. I'm like fixing it for them, Yeah. So really just the day-to-day stuff and helping them troubleshoot and whatnot. I'm actually working on a video right now that I was recording right before this, just about that specific subject, like ways to troubleshoot and upload and downloading, uploading imagery properly and that sort of stuff. That I think will be really helpful. So yeah, that'd be the number one thing.
So at what point do you decide, okay, I've earned enough, I don't have the time, I don't care so much to keep going, maybe it's not worth it, maybe you lose faith in the project? I would assume that's not the case, but at any point down the road, do you see yourself being like, it's time to wrap it up? You guys want to buy out cameras? Are going to sell it on eBay? If not, what's your thought on that? Have you put any thought into it whatsoever?
Not really. I mean, look, if there's anything, I'd rather go and work for myself and be able to leave my job. No, I love my day job. But there's something about being able to do your own thing and take ownership and spend your time doing what you're passionate about. And I'm really passionate about this. So I don't know. I don't know that I see a time where I'm like, I don't want to deal with it anymore. And, take the camera off my hands. I mean, maybe, we'll see. We'll see how big this thing gets. Right. Because I'm at 55 drivers right now. I have plans to scale up to at least 150 at this point. And, it's going to be a lot. I mean, it's already a pretty big task between that and you have 150 vehicles on demo. And then I still have Helium, right, that I'm managing. So, on top of trying to create content, which, as you know, takes a lot of time as well, and then have a full-time job, where I just found out today I'm getting like 4 more states in my territory. So,
nice. Congratulations.
Well, thanks.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
luck.
That's more like it. Yeah. No. So it's a lot, so, it could get to a point where I get burnt out maybe, but right now I don't see it happening because, um, this is the stuff I'm super passionate about. I like,
Mhm.
I mean, working in the deep end space, I think it's such a cool space. Crypto, well, blockchain technology, really. All it is when you think about deep end, right? It's crowdsourcing participation, and scaling in a way that's never been possible before. Cutting out these like large centralized entities that are controlling everything. Blockchain is just the technology that's used to distribute value amongst the participants. And then when you start to look at like the mint to burn equilibrium where revenue is coming in and it's burning tokens out of the supply. In some cases, that's being reminted and redistributed. Some cases, that's just deflationary. I mean, it's such a cool concept, and I think there's going to be. We're just at the beginning, really.
Yeah.
And then you're bringing like this new opportunity to people. For instance, with like Hivemapper and Demo, they're already on the road every day. So, when I'm building out my fleet, like I'm making the capital investment and you're just bringing this cool, like new technology and new opportunity to them for what they're pretty basically doing already. Um, and that's super exciting, and I think, the people I've worked with are super excited about it, obviously right now, especially. Um, but yeah, it's been pretty rewarding from that standpoint.
Well, that about wraps it up for the questions that I had. If there's anything that you'd like to add, go ahead. If there's anything you can think of that maybe came to mind but you didn't get in.
Um, No, I mean, I would say just keep your eye on this space. Even if you're not looking to build out a fleet, like it's worth being an individual contributor in some of these things and just participating. This space is going to get really big. At least I think it will. DePIN is projected to become massive, so there's going to be more opportunities that come along. So, as always, do your own research. And you should research all these projects and be willing to
Yeah.
invest your time. If you're thinking about investing your money, invest your time in researching it first. But it's exciting, like the Bitcoin halving is coming up in April. I think we had a little bit of a premature bull run with the ETF news that everyone was expecting, but look, we're in the right place at the right time.
No,
So
I think we're on track. I mean, I my first go round was 2018, but I was only, you know, what would you want to see, ankle deep into it. But
yeah,
I started again 2020 or 2020, and it was like the same sort of trend upward that we see starting in November of 2023. It was the same way. So I think we're definitely on that same trajectory now. There's a lot of things that I think could be coming down the pipe. Regulation, once again, we didn't see much of it happen years
yeah,
ago when they were talking about it. A lot of attention got diverted to AI. It's likely to be revisited. And
sure.
like you said, some of the macro trends that we're looking at in the overall economy, some people forget how badly COVID decimated the crypto economy.
Yeah,
But at first, I should say, at first.
yeah. Well,
So,
with the flash crash, right? I mean, look, we need more regulation, and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole here, but we need more regulation because there's just too much gray area right now. And I think there's a lot of people that are sidelined, and for us to get mass adoption, like we're going to need more
mhm,
regulation. I think that's one area that SAC has really failed. My concern is this technology is going to be adopted. Like the U.S. has an opportunity right now to be a leader in this technology, but
yeah.
we sit
But
on the sideline.
would you say it's necessarily regulation, or is it guidance, or like adv- advisory from the government? Because there are people in the government who are making the argument that there's already laws on the books as to what's considered security and how these projects should operate. It just has to be enforced to blanket crypto. So yeah, I'm look, I'm not the biggest fan of regulation. I've always had a very libertarian mindset, but
Yeah.
let me tell you, being involved with crypto and seeing the shenanigans that goes on really has made me rethink those
Yeah.
beliefs.
Yeah. Well, guidance, or at least something that we know. I mean, look, I'm setting up legal businesses. Like, I'm doing everything as like to the T as much as I possibly can, but they're still unknown, right? I mean, we should be able to operate in this space and know what's legal and what isn't. And there's still gray areas, like a lot of gray areas right now. And, that just makes it's going to hold us back. I like there are going to be countries that embrace this technology and make it clear and make it so that people can legally participate and know that they're legally participating. And I just hope that we take that step forward, because we might get left behind here and allow other people to take the lead. So that would really be a shame, frankly. So hopefully we get it together. But yeah, there's a lot of opportunity. And I would say the last thing is, as we move into this bull run, like, it's really easy to get caught up in the hype and just throw your money into everything and listen to what everyone's shilling this project and that project. Like, just be careful, like, don't get caught up in the hype. I know it's easier said than done. But always do your due diligence. Okay. Like, it's an
Yeah.
exciting space, but just,
And
do your
some people
research.
don't realize that there are ramifications for certain participation in these activities, whether it be from the financial side or a network usage and security, or even with dash cams. In some countries, taking this imagery is not allowed. Having that dash cam in your windshield is not allowed. So definitely try to do your own research and remain within that legal framework.
For sure. Yeah. But hey, Joe, I appreciate you having me on, man. I'm
I appreciate
trying
you
to
being
build up trying to build up my subscribers. So yeah, please subscribe to my channel. I'm on Twitter as well. So
here. Yeah, I'll leave
appreciate
the
it.
links in the description, of course.
Awesome.
But
Cool,
yeah, we'll
man.
have you back sometime. For those of you who have questions for Brad, you can leave it here in the comments below or on his channel. He'll also upload this video as well as the others he's working on right now. Once again, Brad, thanks for coming on and sharing your expertise. Look forward to having you on again sometime.
Awesome. Thanks, Finn. Appreciate it.